All right, show me the money. NFL picks Super Bowl betting edition. We're wrapping up the season. We have one more game to pick, a lot of ways to bet it. Join me today to help it all down. We chatted with him in week nine. He's back with another co-host of the Sorry to Interrupt podcast. Sean Rowe is here. Sean, how are you?
I'm doing really well, Mike. Thanks for having me on. Looking forward to going over some of these bets with you and preview this game, of which I know a lot of people absolutely can't stand the matchup. But because I'm kind of nerdy, I actually think this is the best matchup. We are getting the two best teams. And I think when we achieve that by the end of the season, it's a good thing.
I think of the four left for that last week. I think that was probably the best matchup possible, the four.
I just think that you're going for the three-peat. I think the Eagles are by far the most talented team in the NFC. These teams just played each other 2 years ago in the Super Bowl. There's a lot of fun subplots if you're an NFL nerd.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, plus, like, obviously, like, the big thing with Saquon Barkley, like, being a sort of, the biggest new face in this game as well, because, like, obviously, she's got a couple new guys in, but nobody bigger to the stage for the first time than Saquon.
We know. We
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the books love and we'll get to it in a minute here. But I think like the other thing interesting about this game here is like I don't know about you, but like I feel like everybody I talk to is like the Chiefs got this in the bag. I mean, I talked to, like I did a blog post with picks from everybody who did the picks on the podcast this year, and I'll plug it real quick here. Just on the suffering.wordpress.com. We did the seventh annual Pick-a-Palooza on the Super Bowl here, and we had just one person pick the Eagles. Everybody else went Chiefs.
Yeah, I mean, I find it very interesting. Like the Eagles are the more talented team, just straight up. I mean, their roster is basically an all-star team, and when they play well, it's really hard to see how they ever lose. But they don't always play well. There's some locker room stuff there. I think the Chiefs have just gotten to that point where the Patriots were in their, especially even in their second iteration, where maybe they weren't rattling off Super Bowls, but they were, it just felt inevitable. That's the word I would use. Like, they're not going to do it in the flashiest way. It's not going to be the most fun. They're not putting up those prolific games like they did when Mahomes first entered the league and they beat the Niners in their first Super Bowl. But they're just very professional. Everybody knows what they're doing on that team. You got Reed, you got Spags, you got Mahomes, you got Kelsey, and I just feel like the reason that you're taking the Chiefs is because they're the least volatile of the two teams. Whereas Philly, you can get the really good Philly team, or you can get the one that, for whatever reason, just doesn't show up.
Yeah. Plus, like if it's a close game, the Chiefs just find a way to win those. I was talking about this last week with Russell Baxter. Like there was a great stat in The Athletic from Mike Sando, friend of the podcast, who said that like the odds of the Chiefs winning 17 consecutive one score games, 0.1%. So less than a tenth of percent chance that they were able to do that many games in a row, which means there is some skill involved there besides just the luck.
Oh, I mean, I think the luck is completely overblown. I mean, great teams don't beat themselves. And I say this all the time on our podcast to Tom, and I have to remind him that in the NFL, a lot more games are lost than won. Like, if you look at the Jets this year, I hate to bring this up for you, Mike, but like, they were in a lot of those games and they lost because they were very poorly coached. They were very undisciplined. And even if they were the more talented team on the field, they were going to shoot themselves in the foot and cost them. The Ravens were notorious for that in the games they lost this year. They made one or two mistakes, either physical or mental errors that you can't come up from. And I thought Buffalo played a pretty clean game, but they were not incredible. Allen was really good, but he wasn't Superman. And that's the level that you have to be at to beat this Chiefs team, because the Chiefs are not going to beat themselves. There's a reason that you win 17 straight one score games. You can do it in a lot of different ways. You can block field goals. You can create the turnover. You can let the team shoot themselves in the foot, however you want to do it. But they're not going to make the mistake that beats themselves. And that's the prevailing theme with all of these wins.
Yeah, for sure. It's something interesting here with the Eagles too, because like this is again, I think you brought the fun point earlier, where it's like if you asked America what this matchup, like, oh, you get this game, like you get these two. I think I've seen the meme on Twitter a lot on the social media streets where it's like the Kansas City is rooting for the Chiefs, the Philly area is rooting for the Eagles, and the rest of the country is rooting for a nuclear bomb to drop on the game.
Yeah, it's kind of like how a lot of people felt about this past year's World Series, where half of New York was rooting for the Yankees because the rest are Met fans. Nobody likes the Dodgers unless you're in LA. And then the rest of the country just wished that it wasn't on. I definitely feel that way. I mean, I certainly, my allegiance as a huge Giants fan, and I will unfortunately admit that some of my fandom has been a little eradicated over the last couple of years with just how awful the Giants have been. But I hate Philly. Like when they played the Patriots, I was a diehard Pats fan. When they played the Chiefs last time, you might as well have dressed me in a Travis Kelce jersey. This year, you might as well dress me in whatever Patrick Mahomes jersey, whatever. I am absolutely emphatically rooting for the Chiefs because I hate the Eagles. I do not want to see Saquon win. I know it's not his fault, but it doesn't matter at this point. Like, how many gut punches can I take? Seeing him hoist the Lombardi would just be the cherry on top as a Giants fan. So I can't see it. I can't live in a world where the Eagles win. 2018 and the Philly special and the win over the Patriots, that was a dark day for me, Mike. So I don't want to relive that. Go Chiefs.
Yeah, so basically, your Super Bowl party, you're hanging out the friendship, the Chiefs friendship bracelets.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure here. And let's get some of the betting angles for this game. I feel there's a lot going on here. So, like, we obviously looked at it from different perspectives. You covered the FanDuel side, I covered the DraftKings side here. So, one thing we'll make the spread pick later. I think it's very interesting that the spread started 1.5, basically locked on Chase until it has barely moved since then. They can make on a half point either direction and level back at 1.5. It tells you, like, as much as the public sentiment is all on the Chiefs, like, in terms of that perspective, I feel like there's got to be decent sharp action on the Eagles here.
I can't imagine why there wouldn't be, Mike. I mean, honestly, like Philly, like I said before, Philly's the more talented team. You've got Saquon, you got AJ Brown, you've got Devontae Smith, you've got Dallas Goedert, you've got a defensive line that's playing at an incredible level. You've got a secondary shutting down passing lanes and creating turnovers. Elliott's a little bit of a wild card right now, kicking field goals, but he's generally been a pretty good one. I'm a little surprised the line hasn't moved a little bit more. Maybe it will by Sunday, but I just think people feel like the Chiefs are inevitable, and all the people that have bet against the Chiefs this year in the regular season and the playoffs just don't want to get burned again.
Yeah, that's why I feel like there's got to be sharp action involved on the Eagles side here because otherwise I feel like that line would have slid more to try and entice people to bet on the Eagles.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
Yeah. Another interesting thing here is like you look, for example, like I looked at DraftKings is like my reference point here. Like the spread here, the Chiefs are it's a minus 110 both ways to on the spread, but the money line, Eagles Chiefs are only a minus 125, which feels low to me considering the how much the public is on the Chiefs.
Yeah, those numbers didn't correlate for me. FanDuel had him at minus 120, and I didn't really get that either. The spread and the money line don't correlate for me, but Vegas knows what they're doing. So, yeah, yeah. Right now, I know which way I'm leaning, but it's tough.
Yeah. It's a tough call because I feel like if with the disparity in the lines here, I mean, like you're honestly better just betting the straight spread if you're a Chief backer because like minus 110 is better value than minus 125, and the odds of them winning by one are pretty slim.
Yeah, I mean, the Chiefs are not going to win by 1 point, in my opinion. I don't think there's a world where that exists. Three maybe, but I definitely don't see one.
Yeah. Yeah. Another interesting angle I want to tackle here is the total here, which is sitting at 48.5, which seems like I know respect to these defenses here, but important to remember the last time these two teams met in the Super Bowl, they put up a combined like 74 points, which was, I think, the second highest scoring Super Bowl of all time. And not much has changed since then. So, I mean, it feels to me like when you add in the dome, you add in Saquon Barkley, and you add in some health, it feels like, like the over is the strong play here, in my opinion.
I guess that this is to me is a reflection on what game they think that if the Chiefs are going to win, what kind of game they're going to play. And that offense has at least shown so far that they do not want to play games in the high 30s and 40s. Their defense also doesn't have a lot of games where they give up more than 25 points, 27 points. So I think from that vantage point, that's where we're looking at. They're probably also looking at the fact that these offenses are known for having very long sustained drives. Time of possession is very big. A couple of years ago, both of those offenses, even the Chiefs, because keep in mind Kelce was 2 years younger, We're a little bit more quick hitting. That's not what the Chiefs are this year. The Eagles are definitely the more explosive offense, so they can hit you like we saw in the NFC Championship game where Washington had a 17 play drive to settle for a field goal, and on the first play from scrimmage, Saquon takes it to the house. It took 8 seconds for them to score. They're capable of doing that. But that's not what this Chiefs team has been. So I think that when you're looking at a number like that, you're taking into account that both teams are going to have the ball for a long time. There's not going to be a lot of explosive scoring. And even both offenses are going to be they're going to be operating a very high efficacy, but probably not trading 2 touchdowns in 9 minutes.
Yeah, that makes some sense here. And I think obviously the headline of the game here, I mean, these are all kind of, standard bets, but I think the prop market separates Super Bowl because I feel like everybody's more invested in the props than they are on your typical NFL Sunday.
That's usually how it goes, man, particularly in the NFL. I mean, you can attest to that more. My co-hosts, Tom and Will, can definitely attest to that a little bit more. But yeah, the props in the Super Bowl is part of what makes this game, more unique than anything else.
Yeah, we'll go on some props I wanted to touch on here. So I think obviously we have to talk about Saquon Barkley here. It's wild. You look at the rushing props here. It's like 120 yards plus for Saquon Barkley on DraftKings, plus 117, which to me it's like he hits one long run. You're right there.
I think 120 is a perfect number. So good job by DraftKings on that because I actually had in my notes to give you a little taste here. I think 120 is the magic number of rushing yards for Barkley. I think if he hits it over, the Chiefs are going to have a hard time winning this game. I think if he's under the 120, I think the Chiefs have a good chance of winning this game. So I think that's going to be kind of the magic number when you're looking at Barkley.
Yeah, I gotta go also to the touchdown scorers. I think it's a fun one here. Like, do you have any thoughts on on the touchdown market?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at Chiefs to score on their first offensive drive. According to FanDuel, yes, is plus 5,500. I like that the Chiefs could score, particularly if they get the ball first. I like the fact they generally score on their first drive, whether they defer or get the ball first. So I feel pretty confident that their game script is going to lead to to them scoring on their first drive.
Yeah, I like that one here. I also gotta go to the individual touchdown scoring market here. So I'm going to go to the DraftKings here, some of my odds here, some notes here in terms of here. The anytime touchdown scoring market, huge number, Saquon Barkley, minus 190 to score anytime touchdown on DraftKings, which is wild. And 2 plus is 295 also shows you how highly they think of his ability.
Well, what's really interesting about that, Mike, and I gave it a lot of thought, is because of the brotherly shove, tush push that they run, they have taken a lot of touchdowns off of Saquon Barkley's ledger. He's had such a great year, but they've really been because he's been taking a lot of them to the house.
Yeah.
But once they get near that goal line, they're going with their bread and butter, which is that Jalen Hurts QB sneak. So I think that's kind of an interesting and tasty bet right there because it sounds so obvious. Of course, Saquon's going to score. But you know what? The Eagles have won a lot of games this year where he didn't score a touchdown. He had a huge rushing day, but took it down inside the 3 yard line, and the Eagles punch it in.
Yeah, I'm telling you, like I'm looking at the Hertz numbers too here. I mean, like minus 110 anytime, which is to me, I like that because it's close to your money, but like if they get down at the 2 yard line, they're gonna try that, the touch push, and 2 plus touchdowns again, plus 550. Throw a couple of bucks down, and you could get a big profit. They get in this situation twice.
Right. I mean, I guess then you're looking at, okay, what kind of game are we playing here? And if the Eagles have some of those long sustained drives like I talked about, or even some of those explosives, big hitter to Brown or to Smith, you get inside that 5 yard line, you kind of know they want Jalen Hurts doing the job to get the ball in. So I think that's a really tasty number right there.
Yeah, I like that number as well. Some other ones. Anybody else on this board stick out to you in terms of the touchdown market?
No, I mean, I think there's people who want to see Kelsey, and I could definitely see, he had 2 catches for 19 yards in the AFC Championship game, and it would not surprise me, and it shouldn't surprise anybody to see him, have one of those plays where somehow he just finds himself open. Mahomes extends the play and finds him, 8 seconds later on the game clock in the corner of the end zone or something. I just don't see it. I don't think that that's how that's going to go. As far as the Chiefs' offensive players go, I think Xavier Worthy's a really interesting one.
Yes. I like his potential with those deep shots. Is like Hollywood Brown to a lesser degree too, because he just got back. But like that Andy Reid has some gadget plays in the works for Xavier Worthy, and they're gonna try and like they always like to pull something out you haven't seen all year.
I was just going to say, I almost feel more confident on him scoring off of one of those jet sweeps than I do off like a 55-yard bomb from Mahomes.
Yeah, that's a good one here too. And I think of you're looking for Saquon value here, I think the first touchdown score plus 475. I like that one more than the other ones, just because like again, like he has a great line blocking for him. One open hole and he goes to the house, you get a plus 475 value there. That's a great spot to bet Saquon.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think some other interesting ones here. If you look at the longer shots, I think like in terms of some of these guys who could pop up out of nowhere here, I think Pacheco underrated as a touchdown scorer because I feel like obviously they're giving Kareem Hunt the workload, and I think like down near the goal line, I can see Pacheco sneaking himself back in there too.
Yeah, I could see that. Kareem Hunt has seemed to be the bell cow, but Pacheco could spell him. Remember, it was kind of his coming out party in that Super Bowl 2 years ago out in Glendale when these two teams matched up. Another one that I think is interesting is Kenneth Gainwell for Philadelphia. I think that, on one of those plays where you get Barkley out of the game and the defense maybe takes a breath or lets their guard down a quick second, Gainwell is just as capable of popping one and getting loose. So I think he's an interesting name too to pay attention to.
Yeah, on DraftKings, Kenneth Gainwell is a plus 1400 anytime TD scorer.
Yeah. So I mean, again, if Philly has their game plan working, he's going to be in the mix.
You certainly will here. So let's get to the specials here, because I think this is the fun here. So DraftKings has some fun stuff cooked up here. I'll give you the first though. The FanDuel side, they have any interesting specials cooked up?
First player to 40 plus receiving yards. I took Devontae Smith plus 610. There definitely seems to be more chemistry between Jalen and Devontae than there does with Jalen and AJ Brown. And I just feel like this could be a game where Devontae Smith, shakes loose a couple times early in the game and has 45 yards in the first quarter, something like that. Team with the most offensive plays in the game, the Chiefs were plus 114
Yep.
because of the fact that I mentioned before that they really run a very sustained drive type offense. They are not a big on explosives. So it's a lot of run plays. It's a lot of chunk yardage. If they have the ball for a long time, they're going to win that. So I like the Chiefs there, plus 114.
Yeah, for sure here. So let's go to DraftKings here. Got a couple of columns on touchdown here. First, they have the Swifty Specials column. I'm going to put on the screen here, the YouTube version. Again, Mike Phillips on YouTube. These are all props based. They're named after Taylor Swift songs here. So a couple of these are interesting to me. Like me right here. Saquon Barkley, a 50 plus yard longest rush plus 350, which to me, like if you're betting the Saquon first touchdown score, this is a good one to compliment it with.
Well, you know what? I don't like that song. Everybody listening, I'm a big Taylor Swift fan. That is not a song I like, and it represents Saquon having success, so I'm not taking it.
Yeah, you are not touching that one.
No.
Yeah. Other interesting numbers here. Deja vu. Casey Chiefs win by at least exactly 3 points, which what happened the last Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Chiefs play a lot of games that come down to 3 points, man. That's definitely one that I'd have my eye on.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of some other ones. If you're a Kelsey backer, ready for it. Travis Kelsey scoring Kansas City Chiefs first drive plus 1100. If you're buying the conspiracy theories about we're going to try and force feed Kelsey the ball in the Super Bowl to get the Taylor Swift reaction shots to the audience, this is one you could buy.
Yeah, it certainly is. You'd have to have your mind really down that conspiracy theory route, though, if that's where you want to go. I think they would just love to get him integrated early. I mean, when they've had success in playoff games, some of those games were sparked by him, feeling himself early, getting in the end zone, having a big play, and then they can kind of feed off of him from there.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of some other ones that any of these other song titles jump out. You want to look at the bet before you go on to the column.
Let's see here. I'm dialing in here. Last great American dynasty. We're talking dynasties, right? So Chiefs to win by 22 plus points. That is a banger of a song, by the way, off of Folklore. No, love that song, but the Chiefs are not going to be playing in that kind of game.
Yeah, they're not gonna be playing that kind of game here. Yeah, I think look what you made me do. Travis Kelce had 4+ receptions each half is interesting.
Yeah, that's certainly an interesting one. I mean, yeah, obviously, if Mahomes can extend the pocket a little bit more, he absolutely can find Kelsey just kind of meandering his way through the middle of the field. But 4+ in the first half, that's a little, or 4+ in the each half rather, that's a little much for me.
And this one, given the way these teams are aggressive in the score department here, two is better than one. Two are more successful 2-point conversions in the game, and you know they're going to take chances on those in the game.
I don't remember that song. But 2-point conversions are absolutely going to be a theme of this song, of this game. So, yeah, each of them for a successful 2-point conversion. I mean, you know, the Eagles are going to use that tush push, and Andy Reid's going to dial up something fun with maybe Worthy or maybe somebody like a Hollywood Brown, something like that.
Yeah, for sure. Look at some other options here. Look at the rushing specials. See here, nothing exciting here. Game specials here. Some interesting numbers here on the board. How about each team to score in all 4 quarters plus 600?
Each team to score in all 4 quarters. Yeah, you know, I'm intrigued by that.
Yeah.
I think that I don't think that the defenses are going to be giving up like high scoring game, like a really high scoring game where it's touchdown after touchdown after touchdown. But yeah, if both of these teams hold the ball and move the ball like I think they will with chunk plays, I mean, field goals are going to be plentiful here too. So yeah, I think I would be entertained by that, Mike.
Yeah, that's a plus 600. I mean, you look at higher on the board here. You have the Chiefs at 145 scoring all 4 quarters. The Eagles to score in all 4 quarters plus 175. Like if you're in the mindset where I am, where it's like I think it's be a higher scoring Super Bowl, like this is what I'll probably be investing in as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There's some really interesting ones, man. I gotta say, they get really creative with these. Tom and Will are going to be watching this clip and being like, "I'd be all over this and be all over that."
Yeah. Yeah, I think also, I mean, like, I also do not like mixing the sports because I think it's just too chaotic when you're adding in, like, oh, like, I remember a couple of years, I think in the last Eagles Patriots Super Bowl you reference here, it was like, oh, like, more like, what's the higher bet? Like, more like Eagles points or James Harden threes. I'm like, I can't do that. That's too hard for me to keep track of.
No, 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 no. That's for the most degenerate, of which some of them may or may not be my co-hosts.
Yeah, I think I know exactly who you're referring to.
I know you know exactly who I'm talking about.
Yeah, but I will not name names on this podcast.
No, that's okay. He knows who he is.
Yeah, if anyone wants to know who it is, you can go listen to Sorry to Interrupt, and they'll figure out who it is very quickly.
Yeah, it's not going to take long.
Yeah, my favorite defensive or special team specials. I like these as well. I'm trying to look for the interesting numbers here. I think like you want to bet the punts?
I don't want to bet the punts, Mike. I don't.
Yeah. I like the will there be a pick six? Yes, plus 650, no minus 1,000. That's a big swing.
It's a huge swing. Jalen Hurts can throw them, and you know even Mahomes can make a mistake from time to time, but that's a tough one too.
And I will point out the bottom one here will be a punt return for a touchdown. That has never happened in Super Bowl history. You've never had a punt return for a touchdown. So you were betting on history. You bet yes.
Yeah, and I'm not. Remember though, Kadarius Toney had like two big plays when these teams met 2 years ago, and one of them was that punt return. He didn't take it to the house, but he put the Chiefs in really good position. He is no longer on that team, but yeah, I just don't see it.
Yeah, Russell Baxter's X factor of the game last week is the cheap kick return, Nico Remigio. So maybe he's a guy you're watching if you like that one.
I saw that. That's a really interesting one. The Eagles have really good special teams, though, so you'd be asking for a lot there.
All right, last thing I want to cover on the betting before we actually pick the game, the MVP market, because I think obviously we have Mahomes the favorite here. I think the interesting note, Saquon Barkley ahead of Hurts on the board for MVP.
Yeah, he's plus 280. Listen, I think the prevailing thought amongst NFL fans, regardless of who you're rooting for, if you're not rooting for any of these teams or you wish you didn't have to watch this game, I think everybody finds it very hard to believe that if Saquon doesn't have a great game, that the Eagles are going to win,
Yeah.
right? So I also think that there's a lot of volatility with Jalen Hurts. You can get the really good Hurts game like you got in the NFC Championship game and like you got in the NFC Divisional. but you can also get the really bad games where he pats the ball, he's indecisive, he doesn't get rid of the ball. Is he banged up? Is he 100%? So I think people are very, very wary of putting a lot of stock into Jalen Hurts. And also, if they are going to have big play explosives, I mean, AJ Brown, he's a name where if he has one of his vintage games or Devontae Smith has one of his vintage games and they're over 150 yards, they could win it too. I think that Jalen Hurts is just not going to be playing the type of game that would lend himself to winning MVP. Even though quarterbacks pretty much always get it, I understand why Saquon is the higher bet there.
Yeah, I just take note here also, we have not had a Super Bowl MVP running back since Terrell Davis back at Super Bowl 32. So we are
Yeah.
long overdue for an MVP running back.
I mean, James White didn't win it in that Patriots comeback against the Falcons. He had 3 touchdowns, including the game winner. It went to Brady, and it also could have gone to Edelman. So, like, it is a quarterback award. Mahomes won it
Every
last year.
time.
I don't think he deserved it, but it's a quarterback award. But I think everybody's kind of placing their bets and looking at Saquon and being like, yeah, if he's going to have 180 yards and it's going to be impossible, and Hurts will manage the game, and it's going to be impossible for anybody to pick anybody other than Saquon if Philly wins.
Yeah, AJ Brown, you mentioned him earlier, plus 3,500 to win the award. So, like, that's one you're looking for the big play. The problem with the betting receivers and the tight ends, no tight ends ever won the award either. So, that's something you're thinking about backing Kelsey at plus 1,500 is that, like, if the tight end or the receivers having a good game, the quarterback is usually having a good game too. So, like, you need a very strange circumstance for one of those guys to, like, just go off and the quarterback doesn't throws like one touchdown, something like that.
Yeah, you would need him to do something extraordinary too. Like you would need him to like catch a screen pass and take it to the house, or like be making catches in double coverage, and that's just not what Kelsey is going to be doing in this game. I saw, yeah, he's plus 1,800 on FanDuel, so yeah, I'm not going anywhere near that.
Yeah, and I think the last like one I can think of is here is like Julie Edelman obviously won MVP in 53. That was the punt fill game where it was like 13-3, and he had like a lot of catches for like 160 yards, something like that. And like Brady,
Yeah, they couldn't even give it to Brady in that one, which you know they would have loved to do, but they looked at each other and they're like, yeah, we can't do this.
yeah, they could not do it here. Brady got it 2 years later though, so I think he made out just fine.
I think Tom Brady made out just fine. You could end any sentence with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm interested to see. Like, I gotta look and see. I'm sure there's somewhere there's like definitely props about Tom Brady calling the Super Bowl somewhere in there.
I'm interested. What are your overall thoughts on him? Like, how do you think he's progressed through the season? Do you think he's a good broadcaster? Do you think he's going to live up to the moment in this game? What are your thoughts on how Brady's done at Fox this year?
I think Brady's been fine for the most part. You can tell he's getting better. I mean, going as season goes on. The thing that I think is a problem for him, I think this is a league inflicted problem, is basically because he's also now the minority owner of the Raiders. That like you can't criticize officials. You cannot like say anything outrageous. Like we saw the hubbub a few weeks ago in the Texan Chief game when Troy Aikman was basically flipping a shit about the pass about the calls against the Texans. When these kind of moments happen in the Fox games, Brady's basically sitting out and letting Burkhardt and Mike Pereira discuss this situation because he knows he can't say anything as per his rules the NFL put on him to do the games.
It's a weird situation. We haven't seen anything like it. There have been broadcasters in the past that have been very non-desired, let's just say, to call out the officials because they feel like it hurts the overall product. By the way, just a quick aside on Aikman, he's gone like the wrestling heel route. Like he doesn't give a shit anymore ever since he went to ESPN. Like he's letting it fly, man. He's saying anything that's on his mind. He's kind of coming off a little surly, kind of like an angry old man. I really like it.
Yep.
It is weird that Brady can't go into these meetings and can't criticize the refs, but that stuff doesn't really bother me. I want to hear my biggest critique of him early in the season was he wasn't really utilizing his experience. He wasn't talking about and giving own personal testimony about a lot of things. And I felt like that's why when Fox made the decision to pay him, what, $37 million a year, like that's what we want. I want to hear from the greatest quarterback of all time talk about what he would do in this situation or revert back to a certain play in a game and talk about how he adjusted to a game plan. I don't need to hear him break down defenses. That's fine. But I want to hear him do other stuff. And there are times where I wish he would really just let Kevin Burkhardt talk because Brady, I feel like, is trying to get every last word in at every single 15-second, 20-second break. But I think he's done a really good job, and he's been additive. I'm that's coming from a big Greg Olson fan. So
Yeah, Greg Olson's still the best to do it in any of the teams, which means like it's a crowd he's not on somebody's number one crew.
yeah, I think that's going to change at some point. But those number one crews are locked in because Romo's not going anywhere, even though I don't think he's great. Uh,
He really fell off the cliff after year two.
he did good call on that, and yeah, because some of his performative stuff just got a little old, and all the noises he makes, it's like I need you to be more definitive with what you're breaking down and what you're analyzing. Collinsworth is great because we all make fun of him, and it doesn't matter because he really is so good at telling you what's happening.
Yeah.
Obviously, we just talked about Aikman; he's awesome. So Brady's not going anywhere. It sounds like he said he's locked into this contract. So yeah, hopefully Olsen is the next in line, and some company can grab him. I would kind of like to see him on Amazon because I love Herb Street, but Herb Street's a college guy. He's
Yeah.
spread a little too thin with the NFL and college.
Yeah, the I don't like the Amazon booth that much. I feel like the Amazon booth, like I mean, Al's on his last legs, and her.
Al doesn't care. That's the problem with Al. Is like he'll do it for the paycheck, but you can tell every game that he really there's no this guy called the miracle on ice. He's called how many World Series? He's called how many Super Bowls? How can you get him excited for a Jets Texans game in Week 10?
Yeah, it's I mean, and even in the games that he should be more excited in, and he's not.
No, no. I mean, I remember when NBC brought him back for that Chargers Jaguars playoff game, and the Jags were lining up to kick this game winning field goal after coming back from like 28 points down. He was like, here we go. It's like, dude.
I mean,
Oh,
there was a reason when Peacock had the game last year, they didn't go to him. They went to Noah Eagle instead for the extra crew, and that worked out much better for them.
who I like, by the way. I mean, sometimes nepotism is okay, and he's really good.
Yeah, he's a nepo baby, but like he actually is does work at his craft.
Yeah, no, and he's really good at what he does.
Yeah, he's really good at what he does here. I think the spot for Olsen though is eventually going to be NBC. I feel like once Collinsworth sort of steps aside, that's where I kind of want Greg to land because I want Greg to be able to call Super Bowls, which he'll never do if he's on Amazon.
And he would really play off Tirico, who Tirico's got his fastball still. He's throwing 96 on
Yeah,
Sunday nights.
yeah, I know as the NBA guy, so you're probably excited. Tarico's going to be the lead NBA guy for when it goes to the NBC next season.
Yeah, I loved him when he was working for ESPN and doing NBA games. He's a great man. He's great.
Yeah, I've met Tarico once in my life. He's a very nice guy.
I believe that. I feel like he's actually genuine. Where'd you meet him? Where were you?
Interning a long time ago at the U.S. Open. He went back. He was there for ESPN, like working the tournament. He came up and said hello to us.
That's really cool.
Yeah, that's really cool here. And we're also now catch up here. Get to the picks for the game here. So my buddy Chris, not the Mad Dog Russo, was on last week for conference for Championship Sunday here, and he had a good week. He went 2-0 last week on Championship Sunday. He got both of them right. He had the Eagles and the Chiefs laying the points. So 2-0 for Chris.
Good for him. Well done, Chris.
Yeah. I rode the commander wagon one more time. Did not let me, well, like we locked in early, but like even when I teased the game down to 12 and a half points, I still couldn't get the cover with the commanders. So that was a loss there. I did bet the Chiefs.
You know, that game could have worked very differently in the betting line if they didn't just absolutely kill any chance that they had of being in that game with the fumbles and the turnovers and the penalties. That game could have looked a lot different score wise.
Yeah, certainly could. So on the year, the Challengers went 32, 33 and 1, 5, 6 and 1 in the playoffs. My year 20, I won 36, 29 and 2 overall, 5, 6 and 1 in the playoffs. So about 500 playoffs. I did win the yearly crown.
Congratulations, buddy. I
Yeah.
did too, by the way. So let's go.
And you were wondering why we asked you to do this for the other two guys.
Tom's going to be so pissed when he hears this. I love it.
Yeah. All right. So let's go ahead here and pick the big game. So we have not much to do left here. Chiefs and the Eagles Sunday on Fox, 6:40 p.m. The Chiefs are 1.5 point favorites. Sean, are you back at the champs or are you going to go somewhere different?
All right, Mike. I've given this a lot of thought. And actually, I really haven't. So I'm not going to be
Sure.
dramatic. I'm taking the Chiefs. They've worked so hard to get back here. There's a lot of reasons why I'm picking them. From a football standpoint, are we going to break this game down or do you want me to do it now?
Whatever you want to do.
All right. So I look at the Chiefs, and they're the least impressive two-loss team of any team I've ever seen, right? And I think that's part of why people don't want to see them win. They're tired of Mahomes in the commercials. They're tired of Kelsey in the commercials and on his podcast and dating Taylor and all that. But this team has the heart of a champion. They have one of the greatest head coaches of all time in Andy Reid. He's cemented that already. Mahomes going for his fourth championship at the age of 28. This team with Steve Spagnuolo as defensive coordinator, that defense, I mean, he runs some of the most exotic stuff, and he's so precise with how he calls his blitz and what he's doing and showing throughout the game to the offenses. So I just look at them and I feel the most safe with them. If you told me the Eagles won by 15, I wouldn't be surprised. They're more talented. I truly believe that. But the best football player in the NFL is Patrick Mahomes. And when he's in that Brady territory now, Mike, when he has the ball, I don't think there's a doubt that he's going to get the job done. Like I said before, they are not going to commit stupid penalties. They are not going to shoot themselves in the foot. They are very disciplined. Everybody on that team, defensively, offensively, and special teams, knows what their role is. They're cool with it. Whereas on the Philadelphia side, A.J. Brown seems at times where he's more concerned with how many targets and catches he's getting than what the result of the game is. Jalen Hurts, he's capable of having great games like we've seen. But, man, I tell you, if Spags is confusing him and putting him and giving him a lot of different looks early, and Saquon hasn't busted one of those big runs yet, and they're playing in a lot of third and longs where he has to throw the ball and go through his processing and go through all of his different reads, that's where Philly really gets in trouble. So when you're picking a game like this, in my opinion, you just got to go with the team you feel the safest with, and to me, that's Kansas City.
Yeah, very well said. There's a lot of reasons you can back the Eagles. I mean, obviously, they have the most dynamic skill position player in this game, Saquon Barkley. There's not nearly as much pressure on them as there is in Kansas City pursuing history, trying to go for the three-peat. And obviously, we saw the Eagles, have their way with teams in the playoffs. They only lost once since October, and that was a game where Jalen Hurts went out with a concussion. They had Kenny Pickett nearly beat the Commanders the last time around. But I'm with you on the chase here. I mean, this is a spot where, this team has shown me they can win. Show me they can win close games. I've not seen the Eagles really be tested in this kind of spot where they're in the nut cracking spot down, a score, having to come back and win the game. I think it's a tight spot here. I have not seen the Eagles do it yet. And I'm not a good guy who picks against Patrick Mahomes in this spot here. So they've earned my trust here. I'm going with the Chiefs. We're going to make it a family play for the Super Bowl.
I love that, Mike. I'm glad you went that route. I wouldn't have picked the Eagles anyway because I couldn't stand having my reputation be put on those dirty birds. But yeah, I just feel the safest. This kind of reminds me of one of those NCAA, Final Four games where you have this team with an explosive offense that scores in the 80s every game, but you're playing this team that just kind of plots its way through the regular season and through the tournament, and they're not doing anything that impressive, but they've won a lot or they've had a coach that wins a lot, and you just know what you're going to get. And that's where I look at the Chiefs, and I'm like, also, Mike, seriously, did they really come this far in their third straight year to not win this thing?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I feel like if anybody can handle it right now, it's them, based on what we've seen over the last couple of years.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, so to reset for the final time this season, Super Bowl picks. Sean and I are both laying the 1.5 with the Chiefs. We are with everybody in our group except for Dan DiMartini, who picked the Eagles. He's the only one of the Justin Suffering pick guests to do it. But those are your picks for the Super Bowl here. So another NFL season coming to an end.
It's sad. Mike, if I may, I just want to point out one thing as far as an X factor that's concerned in this game. It's Vic Fangio's defense against the Mahomes offense. I think that's going to be a great chess match to watch. Fangio's the best in the league at taking away explosive plays, but we've talked about it how many times that the Chiefs don't really make their living this year on explosive plays. I also can't wait to see if that Chiefs offensive line can hold up against Jalen Carter and that Eagles defensive front, because remember, in the lone Super Bowl in this era that the Chiefs have lost, it was because their offensive line got manhandled by Brady's Buccaneers. You got Joe Tooney playing left tackle instead of left guard where he's at his best. You got Jawan Taylor, who's a turnstile and basically an automatic false start on the right side. You've got this Eagles defensive line that if they can start creating havoc and getting after Mahomes, you might see a turnover or two. So I think those are a couple things, if you just want to get in the weeds of this game, that you're going to be looking for early in the game and as it progresses as well.
Yeah, I think the key for the Eagles side here, I think it's like their offensive line has to win against the Chief front because I feel like you have to establish the run here because you're not going to beat them with Jalen Hurts dropping back like 30 times.
They know that, and Spags knows that. So, and I'm not saying you're going to take Saquon away. You're never going to do that. But if you can bottle them up, we talked about the magic number, Mike, being 120. If they can live under that, I think the Chiefs have a really good chance to win this game.
Yeah, 'cause I think the odds, like if you see Saquon pop one of those runs early, you're feeling very good about the Eagles' chances to win the game because that means the line's get generating holes.
Yeah, totally with you. And I also look at the Eagles too, as if they can exploit the Chiefs. I would say that secondary is very good and opportunistic, but sometimes they are a little handsy. You're going against AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. Both of those guys draw a lot of penalties as well.
Yeah. Before I let you go, though, I know you're a big NBA guy. We're gonna be talking NBA on this pod, so we'll do a crossover with you and Tom in a couple of weeks after the Super Bowl festivities are wrapped up here. But we got the first ever real shams bomb on Saturday night. Like when we like all go to bed at the Knicks Lakers. I wake up, I think like 2 in the morning. For some reason I use the bathroom. I'm like, what? And I see this trade that Luka to the Lakers for Anthony Davis. It's so bad that at one point everybody assumes that Shams was hacked and the deal gets announced and you're like watching this and then you realize, oh wait, this is real. And to me, like this trade, it's one of the most bizarre superstar trades I've ever seen.
Yeah, you hit on everything there. Like nobody thought it was real when they saw it. I thought I got sentelled. Anybody on Twitter knows that. I couldn't believe it, and Tom said it well on our podcast when we recapped it yesterday, and he said, "If your buddy offered you this in fantasy basketball, nobody would allow it because
Yes.
it's not real, right?" And um, you just look at this, and I said on our pod as well, this is a watershed moment in the NBA. I mean, trades like this don't happen. Um, there's a lot of nuance in it since we've had about 40 hours to process it. Mike, like from my standpoint, I actually, in the very short term, don't hate this for Dallas at all. They just got really good defensively. Kyrie's had an awesome season. He was snubbed from the All Stars. You've got a good supporting cast. You have your own shot creators. Dinwiddie can do that too. Luka's a prolific offensive player, a top 5 player in the league. But I think for what Dallas wants to be this year and maybe next as well, really clamping down on defense and getting that interior presence. Anthony Davis, and he's also going to be able to play the 4 now with Gafford and Lively there. So I actually really like this move in the short term for Dallas. Now, that's not to take anything away from the fact that this is a catastrophic move for the history of the Dallas Mavericks. Because even if they win a championship making this move, Nico Harrison's going to be fired in about 5 years because he's going to watch what Luka does in LA. He's going to be under the LeBron mentorship. LeBron's going to introduce him to his hyperbaric chamber, his personal chefs, everything that he possibly needs, all the elite trainers in the world, and Luka's going to go nuts. He already has gone nuts. I mean, the one thing that's really bothered me with how the Mavs have tried to signal this is like, oh, we're not convinced that he's ever going to take his conditioning out seriously. He may never be healthy. He's going to continue to suffer these soft tissue injuries and be out for extended period of time. The guy is 25 years old, and like people are talking about him like he's had the career Zion Williamson's had. This
Yeah.
guy, this guy is just took his team to the finals last year. He's been a 5 times straight All NBA player. He upset that Phoenix team a couple years ago. He hit that shot against the Clippers in the bubble. Like this guy's a stone cold killer. And he was supposed to be the second guy to get a statue in Dallas. He was supposed to be a forever Mav, just like Dirk, and ride off into the sunset and be there forever. I just really, there's no way where you can really say that this is a good trade for Dallas, even if they do get short-term rewards for it. And as for the Lakers, you want to talk about just having like the chef's kiss of perfect timing. Started with Wilt in the 60s, then it went to Kareem, then you get obviously Magic being drafted to you. You draft Kobe when 14 teams pass on him. Shaq comes to LA. You get Pau Gasol for free. LeBron just decides after all these years that nobody wants to play in LA for the Lakers. oh, I'll go there. I'd like to live in LA. Then you get Anthony Davis say, I'm only coming to you. And now, as they're staring a perpetual mediocre team once LeBron retires, with Anthony Davis being the face of the franchise, you're approached. Keep that in mind, Mike. The Mavericks approached them to do this trade. You get 25-year-old Luka Doncic. It's unfucking believable.
Yeah, I mean, I say it to you off the air, and I want to bring it on the air because I think this is a very fun sort of comparison here. This is literally the embodiment of this meme. You can't keep getting away with it.
You were so right.
He can't keep getting away with it. He won't. Yeah, literally, this is the Breaking Bad meme, 1,000%, because you brought it up perfectly. I mean, this is a situation where the Lakers, always seem to, just fall ass backwards into superstars. Whereas, like the Knicks, you've seen this. The Knicks have been trying for 50 years to land a superstar, and they think they might have gotten one with Karl Anthony Towns. We'll see, but the Lakers have them teams walk up to them and say, "Here, you can have our guy for nothing." Whereas, like, if you're going to trade Luka, that's a decision, okay. But how are you not opening up to the entire league and saying, Luka's on the block? Give me your best offers. You got the Thunder saying that there was 7,000 first round picks. You got the Cavaliers who would say, you know what, Luka could help us win a championship. You could have, the Warriors say, let's pair him with Steph and try and make a run for it. Like, you have a massive bidding war around the league. And instead they say, okay, give us one first round pick and a 31-year-old made of glass and a role player.
Mike, you're so right, and I'm glad you pointed that out. Why they did not approach other teams and say, "Hey, like, we're kind of out of the Luka business. Keep this on the down low, but we are willing to, explore some moves." And Tom said it on our pod yesterday, and I think he's dead on. Like, there's probably only three players in the NBA right now when you look at contract, when you look at age, when you look at accomplishments, and then project what they're going to be for like the next 8 to 10 years, who you wouldn't trade Luka for. And that's SGA, that's obviously Wemby, and it's probably Giannis.
Yeah.
Other than that, like, you're everybody wants Luka Doncic. Everybody wants Luka Doncic. It's unbelievable that of all the teams that they chose not to have a bidding war with anybody else but the LA Lakers. And, you made the Knicks analogy, and I think it's a good one. The Lakers have not had very stable ownership either. Like, they were not known, like the mid 2010s, they were an abyss. Like LaMarcus Aldridge, when he was the proud free agent of that group, I think it was 2015, he took a meeting and was like, this team doesn't know what they're doing. Like, I don't want any part of going here. And he went to San Antonio. But it only takes that sunshine and Southern California lifestyle for one person to be like, you know what? I
I
could
built
make
this.
I
Yeah.
could make this home. Yeah.
Yeah. Plus, your Braun and also the other ulterior motives. Like, like once I retire, I want to have like a Hollywood setup here. So this is a good place for me to play ball and build my empire.
Yeah, totally. And for Luka, like, he's going to be, I have zero doubts, Mike, as I'm sure you don't either, that he's going to go there. And by the age of 27, 28, he's going to be spelt. He's going to be in amazing shape. He's going to be completely catered. He's going to stay away from that Texas barbecue, which, let me tell you, it is pretty damn good. But yeah, no, he's going to change his life. That's why, like, it was so confounding to me where they're like, we just don't trust that he's going to be this. I'm like, listen, if he was 31, I'd get it. But like, he's 25, and think of what he's done not playing in A+ type shape. Like, that's the craziest thing to me. Like, the fact that we're willing to die on this heel and publicly drag him. Like I said before, they're talking about him like he's Zion Williamson, who never plays and has basically eaten himself out of New Orleans. Like, it's just it's crazy to me. It really is.
Yeah, it's nuts too. You think about it too, because we know what's gonna happen. He's gonna, like you said, LeBron's gonna introduce him some personal trainers. Like, they're gonna help him, like, be like a very chiseled like 225 and by the time that pick conveys in 2029, you're gonna basically have traded him for like 3 years of Anthony Davis, the 27th pick in the draft.
Dude, and the crazy thing too is when you think of timelines, like, when did his entire career change?
Went
It
to
changed
Miami.
in game 6 of the 2012 Eastern Conference Finals, down 3-2 to Boston at Boston Garden. And he had one of the most historic games of all time. And from then on, he was a totally different player. He was more mature and he was in his his late 20s then. When did Kobe's mindset shift from being selfish, from being, a ball hog, from being all about me to becoming this dedicated warrior that we all celebrate? It changed in like when he was 29, 30. So to have the history of the league tell us that already great players find another level to get to by the time they turn 28, 29, 30, and the Mavs to just completely dismiss that and say this is who he's going to be for the rest of his career. By the way, if this is who he was for the rest of his career, that's still pretty damn good. So there's no way to explain it away, man. There just isn't.
Yeah, and the funny thing to think about it too here is you look at this situation if you're like a what do you call if you're just like a Mavs fan too, and you experience this with Brooklyn here, Kyrie's not gonna sit with this very well if like the Anthony Davis thing doesn't gel immediately.
No, you're right. And I brought that up yesterday. I was saying, I think for now he's going to play very nice. And I actually think that pick and roll and that dynamic with Davis is going to be pretty lethal. I mean, it's so funny too how fast things move in the NBA. Like we're what 9 months removed from
Yeah.
talking about how Kyrie and Luka is potentially the best backcourt of all time, and they played together for almost 2 years, with each of them missing a lot of time. But Kyrie is entering year 3 of a 3-year deal next year. So he's going to have to play nice. And if he really wants out, they'll probably move him because his value somehow he brought all that value back. Because think of how little the Nets got for him because they just wanted him to go away. Um, so it'll be interesting to see how things play out in Dallas. But if Davis starts missing a lot of games and Kyrie's not happy, you're definitely looking at a potential blow up situation.
So what picks do the Nets own from Dallas right now? Because I'm curious about now. They got a lot spicier now. There's no Luka in the mix.
I don't know exactly off the top of my head which ones. The Nets have gotten so many picks over the last 2 years that I can't even remember which ones are theirs.
Yeah, I'm gonna look up
They have
real.
like 15 first round picks in the next 4 years.
Yeah, it's another thing real quick before we wrap up here. Thinking about here, it's like this is a league where basically Mikal Bridges and Rudy Gobert got traded for a combined like 10 first round picks and swaps, and
Yeah,
Luka gets one.
it's unbelievable, isn't it? Like the more and more, like each of us have kind of like, I felt like we're volleying back and forth with like crazy stats and things just to continue to beat the drum of how completely ridiculous this trade was on Dallas' side.
Yeah, I'm trying to find real quick the outlet, like the Kyrie Irving trade. So the Brooklyn Nets received from that deal there's one first round pick is unprotected. It's in 2029.
Okay, I knew it was later on. Yeah,
You have two twos in there. You have a 2029 unprotected one in a year where there's a good chance that neither AD or Kyrie is in Dallas at that point.
and listen, if Nico is still the GM there, I mean, who's going to want to go play him? Like that's the other thing that like agents are talking, and like you're not only like unceremoniously saying goodbye to Luca by your choice, but you're raking him over the coals. Like you're talking about him like he's been a bad player and a bad guy. It's okay to be out of the business and have reservations. You're willing to go out and make that gamble, so be it. But in the court of public appeal, this is really bad.
It is really bad. And Sean, thank you for all the time today. I really appreciate it. If you want to follow you on social media, keep up with you guys on the Sorry and Rep podcast. How can you do that?
Yeah, follow us at sorry_sports on Instagram now, sorry_sports on TikTok now, sorry sports at Twitter. We are trying to be like you, Mike. We are doing a lot more on the social media side. So, yeah, give us a follow on all of those. And it's always a pleasure to be on. And we love collaborating with you and always appreciate you wanting to reach out to us.
Sounds good. We'll definitely got to chat soon. We got to get into our NBA flow here because I got to get into the basketball more because my hockey team's not going anywhere. So I got to be more on the Knicks train.
We always got something next to talk about, buddy.